Hey everyone, this is Ferry here from the 5-Minute Modeler. In today's video, I'm showing you how I use JMRI's Operations Pro to move railcars through my new layout addition, specifically between Petoskey, Mackinac City, and St. Ignace. This setup ties in with the Mackinac City Docks and Chief Wawatam ferry module I recently built. Let's dive into how I keep things running smoothly. Before we get into it though, a quick shout out to Matt with YouTube channel Railroad Street. Matt was putting together a video on the Chief Wawatam, reached out to me, and part of our conversation made it into his professional documentary. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to check it out. I think you'll like it. JMRI is a free tool for managing your model railroad. One of the modules included is Operations Pro, which allows tracking car movements on the layout by setting up locations, routes, and trains in a logical order. First, we'll create our key locations. The first location is Mackinac City. This is where the ferry operates. I've set up 2 tracks here for storing cars using their actual lengths, about 220 feet each. JMRI keeps the numbers in check, limiting the car loads to 8 to 10, which is the capacity of the Chief. The second location we'll be creating is St. Ignace. It doesn't physically exist on my layout, but I set it up similarly to Mackinac City, but instead I've made the tracks 1,000 feet long in JMRI. There are a few other locations that we'll be using that are already built: Petoskey and Kalamazoo. The Petoskey Yard is where trains will originate from and head across the layout, finally arriving in Mackinac City. They will later return to Petoskey. The second location is Kalamazoo. The Kalamazoo Yard, which is actually a drawer where I store cars coming off the layout, will also serve as points west. It'll also be used to generate cars going to St. Ignace. The next step is to create the routes. For example, Petoskey to Mackinac City. This is a simple round trip with no stops along the way. Trains load in Petoskey, drop off in Mackinac City, and return with new cars. The Kalamazoo to St. Ignace route brings cars in from points west, or the Kalamazoo drawer, and runs to St. Ignace, where it will drop cars for the ferry. It will also pick up any cars there and return them to Kalamazoo/points west. Each route involves adding the locations the trains will start from and end, defining pickups and setouts, and setting the maximum number of moves in each location. For example, for the Petoskey to Mackinac City turn, we add Petoskey Yard, Mackinac City, and Petoskey Yard again as the locations. We'll establish whether the train will pick up or set out cars at each location, and then put limits on the number of moves in each location, which will limit the number of cars. Next, we need to create some trains to move the cars. The first train we're going to create is the Mackinac City turn, train number 55. This will move cars from the Petoskey Yard to Mackinac City and back using the Petoskey to Mackinac City route. The next train will be the Kalamazoo to St. Ignace train, which is really going to be a Soo Line train, which is not modeled, train number 411, and this moves cars from Kalamazoo to St. Ignace and back using the St. Ignace route that we just created. And then the third train is really not a train, Chief Wawatam Ferry. There is no train number, but this will transfer cars between Mackinac City and St. Ignace following the ship's route logic. It then returns to Mackinac City. Once everything's set up, we can run the trains in JMRI. As an example, let's take a look at the Mackinac turn, train number 55. It starts with its manifest from the Petoskey Yard. The train will move throughout my layout without making any stops until it gets to my southernmost yard, which normally is the classification yard for Grand Rapids. But here I've dedicated 2 tracks to this route. So we will call these 2 tracks for the Mackinac City Yard. When the train arrives, the engine will uncouple from its cars and proceed to the wharf. Its manifest requires that it picks up cars on the sidings. Generally, this is going to be all the cars there that came in from St. Ignace. It will move those cars to the other track in the Mackinac City Yard, uncouple and proceed to the end of the siding, where it will then proceed down the siding to where the inbound cars were dropped. After connecting to the caboose, it shoves the cars to the Mackinac City dock siding, leaving them there for the dock engine to load onto the Chief. The brakeman will uncouple the cars from the caboose, then the train will head back to the Mackinac City Yard. Once in the yard, the engine and caboose will travel down the empty siding till near the end, drop the caboose. The engine will then pick up the recently dropped cars, pull through the switch, back to coupling the caboose. Once the brakes are released, the train will head back to Petoskey Yard. Train number 411 runs from Kalamazoo to St. Ignace, picking up cars there and bringing them back west. Then the Chief Wawatam ferry picks up the cars in Mackinac City and delivers them to St. Ignace. Each train must be completed in JMRI before the next step happens. The ferry's movements are tracked just like any other train, and I'll even give operators a 10-minute break to simulate the time crossing the straits. So that's it. With JMRI Operations Pro, I can efficiently manage car movements between locations without worrying about cars getting stuck or missing a step. It's all about setting up the proper locations, the routes, and the trains logically, and JMRI takes care of the rest. I'm not an expert in JMRI, but if you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the comments section. So thanks for watching, and don't forget, check out my Mackinac City Dock series for more history and details.